3 spine-chilling tales of sinister encounters alone in the woods, awful secrets discovered. The Anderson family thought they were ready for a weekend of camping bliss, trading city clamor for the whispering woods of Maplewood. But what awaited them was a nightmare woven into the fabric of their family ties. As they enjoyed their Friday night dinner surrounded by playful banter and the aroma of warm spaghetti, little did they know what darkness lurked just beyond their sanctuary. Mark laughed heartily, feeling a strange sense of security. Sarah's recounting of childhood camping trips brought smiles, but her reminder that the woods could be a safe haven rang hollow as shadows crept closer. Lily, their teenage daughter, hid her apprehension behind a forced smile, her fingers itching to scroll through her phone. Every chirp and rustle felt amplified, as if the trees themselves were judging her. Meanwhile, little Jake bounced around, gleefully oblivious to the sinking feeling gnawing at her. They loaded up the car, laughter still spilling from their lips, unaware that fate would soon turn laughter into screams. Upon arrival, fresh air filled their lungs, but the towering trees cast eerie shapes in the fading light. Setting up camp by a tranquil creek, the serene beauty was marred by an unsettling tension that wrapped around Lily's heart. She shivered, chasing a strange premonition. Everything was too quiet. As darkness enveloped the campsite, she thought she saw shadows flitting between the trees, but when she voiced her concern, her parents laughed. "You're just scared of the dark, Lily." Mark chuckled, dismissing her worries. But when Jake spilled hot cocoa on himself and cried out, the shadows seemed to leap closer, taunting her. Their campfire crackled and brightened the dull edges of the night, yet an unnatural chill swept through the air, freezing their laughter in place. Whispering leaves seemed to carry a sinister secret, and the woods felt alive, as if watching, waiting. The warm glow of the fire felt like a fragile barrier between them and the encroaching peril. While searching for firewood later, Lily stumbled upon a tattered journal half buried in the ground. She shuddered as she flipped the pages, revealing frantic accounts from previous campers' stories of strange figures and horrifying sounds merging with the very air they breathed. Lily's heart raced. With every turn of the page, the unease in her gut blossomed into outright fear. But her parents brushed off her discovery as mere folklore, a warning their ignorance thrived upon. Just when Lily thought things couldn't get worse, a park ranger approached, his smile carrying an unsettling quality. He knew their names. He spoke with an unnerving familiarity. Panic clawed at her throat. "Do you need help?" he asked, his voice smooth yet chilling. Behind him, shadows shifted, their shapes contorting in the flickering firelight. "Everything all right?" The family exchanged glances, doubt piercing the air. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Suddenly, an unearthly crash echoed from the depths of the woods, sending terror rippling through the Andersons. The fire flickered violently, illuminating their wide-eyed expressions. An icy touch crept into Lily's chest. They were far from safe. The ranger's smile twisted, morphing into something darker, the warmth of community evaporating. They were no longer in control. The woods, once idyllic, now whispered of lurking malevolence. As doubt and dread metastasized, they had to decide trust the authority meant to protect them or uncover the darkness that intertwined with their very being. As the night deepened, the woods held their secrets tightly, leaving the Anderson family skirted between fear and discovery. Would they unravel the horror that had befallen their family, or would they become yet another chilling tale lost among the shadows? The darkness had only just begun to encroach, and they were caught right in its web. Lily struggled to catch her breath, her mind racing. The haunting crash echoed again, reverberating in her chest like a drumbeat of terror. Mark's laughter faded, uncertainty creeping into his features, while Sarah clenched Jake tightly, her eyes darting between the surroundings and the ranger whose smile now seemed like a gash in the fabric of the night. "Maybe we should pack up," Mark suggested, voice trembling slightly. The ranger's gaze grew more intense, almost predatory. "You're more than welcome to stay," he replied, the sweetness of his tone laced with a sinister edge. "Many have before you." Lily grabbed her parents' arms, her voice a frantic whisper. "We can't stay here. We need to leave. Now." But her plea only earned her a scolding look from her father. "You're imagining things," Mark murmured, though his eyes betrayed his growing agitation. Outside the fragile barrier of the campfire, shadows danced. Each flicker of light unveiled more sinister outlines, shapes that moved with deliberate slowness, like predators stalking their prey. The air thickened with dread, and a chill seeped into their bones as the ranger stepped closer, his smile twisting into something cruel. Suddenly, a loud howl cut through the night, primal and vicious. Jake whimpered, burying his face in Sarah's shoulder. Mark turned to the woods, grappling with the unsettling sense that the trees were whispering his name, mocking him. The ranger's eyes glinted darkly as he took a step back, tilting his head in feigned curiosity. "You should hear what the woods have to say," he cooed, and for a moment, it felt as if the very air held its breath, waiting. "But you might not survive the truth." Fear tightened around Lily's throat like a noose. She could feel it, the presence that loomed just beyond the reach of their light, a force that didn't want them to leave. As her father's hand on her shoulder tightened, a primal instinct surged within her, the instinct to flee. "All right, let us get the gear," Mark said slowly, shaking off the unease, but panic flickered in his eyes. He stood, casting his gaze toward the encroaching darkness. A movement caught his attention, and his face drained of color as a figure materialized from the trees. Tall, gaunt, with an elongated shadow stretching unnaturally behind it. The figure paused, tilting its head in a grotesque imitation of curiosity. "What is that?" Sarah whispered, the quiver in her voice betraying her psyche. "Don't look," Lily snapped, but it was too late. Fascination and horror crashed together as the figure drew closer, its pale skin nearly glowing against the gloom. The ranger shifted, his smile widening unsettlingly as if he were welcoming an old friend. Their laughter rushed back, ringing hollow against the landscape, rippling through the air like a taunt. The figure was no longer hiding in shadows, it was front and center, its eyes glinting like daggers. They were cornered. Then, with a speed that defied logic, the creature lunged, a howl bursting from its throat that reverberated through their very bones. The fire crackled and sputtered under the weight of sheer terror, flickering wildly as if it too understood the depths of danger that surrounded them. Lily felt frozen, but somehow, she found her voice. "Run!" She screamed, and they all turned, horror driving their feet as they scattered into the trees, the night swallowing their cries, but as they fled blindly into the thicket, Lily's heart plummeted. The silhouette of the ranger stood still, watching. And somewhere deep in the woods, the whispering sound of laughter rose above the chaos. The woods were now their enemy, and the truth was lurking behind every twisted branch. As they stumbled through the darkness, desperate breaths echoing in their ears, Lily wondered if maybe they had already reached the point of no return. What truths lived in the shadows? And what awaited them in the heart of Maplewood? Branches scraped against Lily's skin, snagging her clothes like hands trying to pull her back. Shadows swirled around them, swallowing sounds and breath. The howl echoed in her mind, relentless. She sprinted, heart racing, urging her legs to keep moving. "Where do we go?" Mark's voice quivered behind her. Just keep running." Lily gasped, pushing through the heavy underbrush, the darkness clawing at her heels. Ahead, Sarah stumbled, yanking Jake along. I can't. She panted, her breath a desperate whisper against the terrifying stillness. The baby clutched her tightly, oblivious to the danger surrounding them. Lily could feel the atmosphere thickening, like a fog rolling in. It wrapped around her, slowing her down, making each step feel like a struggle through molasses. Then, another howl split the night, close enough to send a fresh bolt of terror coursing through her veins. It had a wild, savage quality too close, too real. Over here. Mark shouted, his voice breaking through the din. He veered off to the right, and they followed, the underbrush snapping beneath their hurried steps. But there was no relief. The woods pressed in on them, the trees watching with an eerie stillness, their gnarled branches twisting like groping hands. The ranger's laughter faded but was quickly replaced by the frantic rustling of leaves, something pursuing them, stalking them through the black maze. "Lily, wait!" It was Sarah, panting heavily. The sound pulled Lily back, and she turned to see her friend's face pale and fearful. "We can't stop. Keep moving," Lily urged. But as she spoke, a shadow flitted through the trees, sleek and low to the ground like a darting black fish. "Did you see that?" Sarah stammered, eyes wide. "Focus. Just run." The urgency turned Lily's tone into something sharp, jagged with fear. As they tore deeper into the heart of Maplewood, the environment grew strangely surreal. The air grew thicker, and every breath felt more labored, like they were inhaling treacle instead of air. It was as if the woods were orchestrating this terror, deliberately sowing panic. A sudden crack echoed behind them, the sound of snapping twigs, too loud, too close. Mark turned, face ashen. What the hell was that? The tremor in his voice sent a fresh wave of dread crashing over Lily. Then, in a moment of agonizing clarity, the terror coalesced into a single chilling realization. They were not alone. Something more than just the shadows had come alive in this cursed place, stalking them, savoring the scent of their fear. "Keep moving." Lily yelled again, but doubt crept in, clawing at her resolve. An unsettling thought lingered at the edge of her mind. What if they were meant to run? What if it was a game, and they were nothing more than pawns in it? They stumbled into a narrow clearing, moonlight casting long, ghastly shadows that painted their faces in a spectral glow. Lily glanced over her shoulder, a chill running down her spine. In the distance, she could see the ranger again, flanked by the tall, gaunt figure with its predatory gaze fixed on them. Why is he just watching?" Sarah gasped, looking back, her words heavy with confusion. "Maybe he wants us to go deeper to find something," Mark muttered, glancing at Lily, horror dawning in his eyes. "What if we're not meant to leave?" Lily shook her head furiously, as if denying the thought could banish it from existence. They needed to break free, to escape this madness. But as they turned to leave the clearing, another howl pierced the night closer, angrier. The shriek echoed through the trees as the shadows thickened, swirling together to form shapes that began to shift back into sight, more figures emerging from the veils of darkness. Lily felt her breath hitch. "We have to find a way out. Now." But as they turned, a wall of thick, dark mist rolled in from every side, enveloping the clearing and cutting off all escape. Their screams were swallowed whole as laughter echoed around them, a cruel mocking that shattered their last shreds of hope, and in that suffocating darkness, Lily realized, they were not just lost in the woods. They were being drawn into it, deeper into a nightmare that thrived on their fear. What would they discover if they were dragged deeper still? As they stood at the precipice of panic, the moonlight flickered, revealing glistening eyes watching, waiting. Just like the ranger's smile, the truth loomed ahead, waiting to be unearthed if they dared to confront it. Lily stumbled backwards as the mist pressed in like a vice, squeezing out the last remnants of light. Desperation clawed at her throat, and she could hear the rapid fire of everyone's breath mingling in the thick, oppressive darkness. "We've got to move," she gasped, clutching her pounding heart, betraying the rising panic. Mark grabbed her arm, eyes wide. "But where?" "It's everywhere." His voice cracked in sheer terror, and Lily could almost taste the despair mixed into the air. It was acrid, suffocating. "Over there." Sarah pointed, her voice trembling, though it was drowned out by malevolent laughter that echoed through the mist. The sound rattled her bones and synced with the frantic rhythm of her heart. It was the laughter of someone who knew too well what was hidden in the woods. Relishing their fear, they rushed toward what seemed like an opening in the mist. Each step felt agonizingly slow, like trudging through glue. The shadows slithered along the ground, feeling alive, aware of their every move. With each passing moment, the fear became palpable, a living thing that wrapped around them, squeezing tighter. Wait! Jake's wail suddenly pierced the suffocating fog. Sarah's hold on him faltered, and the baby began to cry a shrill, desperate sound that seemed to echo farther than their panic had. Shut him up! Mark hissed, his voice laced with urgency. No! I can't just. Sarah's protest was drowned by another howl that swept through the clearing, sharp and chilling, and in that moment, the wrongness of it all settled in. This was their final warning, and they had to heed it. Lily pushed on, eyes darting around for an escape, and then she saw something, a flicker of light through the trees ahead. This way! Follow me! She was already moving before she had a chance to think about the implications. Strange, promising light, it could be salvation or something far more sinister. They fought their way through the encroaching grasp of the dark mist, limbs twisting and tearing at the brambles that reached out like angry fingers. The laughter faded until only the wails of Jake rang out in the suffocating silence, making the fear rest heavy on their shoulders, and then, they reached the edge of the mist and stopped. What lay before them was unexpected and surreal, a single candle flickering in an ancient stone lantern, standing all alone in the middle of the clearing. It illuminated a circle of old, cracked stones, arranged in an unsettling formation, as if marking some sacred ground. The dark forest loomed just beyond it, shadows shifting and swirling as if alive. Is this? Mark breathed, horror dawning on his face. It looks like a ritual site, Sarah whispered, clutching Jake tightly, her eyes wide with dread. Lily stepped closer to the candle, its flicker throwing eerie shadows that danced against the stones. She felt a tug, a strange compulsion to reach out. Maybe it's a place of power. We can use it to find a way out, she murmured, even as an unsettling feeling prickled at her skin. Or a trap, Mark countered. We don't know who or what put it here. But it was too late. In that moment, as they stood on the precipice of choice, the candle flickered violently, and the mist coiled back, revealing shapes looming in the dark. They were not alone. The figures, shrouded in darkness but with eyes glinting wickedly, moved closer. It was a reminder that the woods had teeth, and their mouths were now open wide. What do we do? Sarah shrieked, holding tightly to Jake, the baby's cries merging with the fear gripping all of them. Lily turned, heart pounding. It was time for a decision. Do they dare approach the candle, risking unknown horrors? Or do they turn back and face whatever hunted them in this dark, twisted woodland? In that moment of paralyzing uncertainty, the shadows shifted, closing in around them, and Lily realized the truth. There was no escape without confronting what lay ahead. The candle might just hold the key to their survival or their doom. What choice would they make? Even in the suffocating darkness, the woods were waiting, eager to consume them whole. The figures emerged from the shadows, their outlines twisted and grotesque. Lily's breath caught in her throat as she tried to gauge their intentions. There were 4 of them, each cloaked in tattered, dark garments that fluttered like dying leaves in the wind. Their eyes were the worst, glistening with a hunger that sent chills down her spine, a primal warning that urged them to flee. Stay back! Mark shouted, stepping protectively in front of Sarah and Jake. His voice, however, quavered with fear, and the figures didn't flinch. They merely took a step closer, a collective movement that felt ominous, as if they were drawn together by some unseen force. Lily's mind raced. What do we do? She whispered, her heart hammering against her ribs. Sarah's grip on Jake tightened as she weighed their options, her eyes shifting between the flickering candle and the encroaching figures. We can't just stand here. Jake's cries intensified, the sound piercing the thick air, almost as if it was irritating the shadowy beings drawing nearer. Lily felt a cauldron of fear bubble in her stomach. We need that candle. She blurted, realizing the urgency. What are we going to do with it? Mark snapped, but he didn't back down, courage overtaking his doubt as he seemed to find resolve in the chaos. Lily's right. It might be our only chance. With a nod of determination, they surged forward, propelled by a mix of dread and desperation. Their feet crunched on the brittle leaves and twigs that littered the ground, each sound amplified, echoing unnaturally in the growing silence. The shadowy figures paused, watching avidly, their eyes narrowing. And then, as if sensing the threat they posed, they began to hiss, a sound like steam escaping from a kettle, sharp and menacing. "Go! Now!" Lily shouted, feeling a primal instinct kick in. They tore through the circle of stones, darting toward the glowing candle, its flicker casting erratic shadows against the forest, illuminating the fear in their eyes. As they reached the lantern, Lily felt it beckoning. The warmth radiated from the candle, contrasting sharply with the chilling grasp of the mist. She reached out, fingers trembling dangerously close to the flame. Yet, instead of comfort, she felt a jolt, a flash of images, horrors beyond comprehension that raced through her mind. Souls trapped, whispering pleas for freedom. She gasped and jerked back. "We need to light it," Mark urged, panic rising in his voice, glancing over his shoulder. The figures weren't waiting. They advanced, swift and silent, as the shadows elongated, almost reaching for the warmth of the flickering flame. Lily's hands shook. It was now or never. "How?" she stammered. "Is there a wick? An oil? Just use your lighter," Sarah shouted, her voice sharp with fear, urging Lily to act. Fumbling in her pocket, Lily found the lighter. With a deep breath, she flicked it open. The flame flickered to life and she thrust it toward the candle's wick. It caught quickly, sending an orange glow radiating throughout the clearing. At that moment, the figures halted. The hissing turned into a guttural growl, reverberating through the woods like thunder. The intensity of the candle's light pulsed, illuminating their twisted faces, distorted, almost human, with features that seemed to shift in and out of focus. "Back!" Mark shouted, as an invisible barrier seemed to rise against the figures. But the candle didn't just repel them, it revealed something worse. With the light surrounding them, the forest around turned darker, revealing more shadows lurking in every corner, more than just the four that had approached. They were not alone, the woods were crawling with watchers. Lily's heart dropped. What have we done? She could see their eyes now, not just seeking but waiting for something to unfold. In that moment of realization, dread washed over them. There was no simple escape. The candle's light had drawn them in, but now it had woken something far older. The woods were hungry, and the candle was just the beginning. Would they find safety, or would the very light they sought instead lead to their doom? As the shadows loomed ever closer, the circle of the known began to narrow around them. Time was running out. What were they truly willing to sacrifice to break free? The air thickened with an overwhelming sense of dread. The shadows shifted, elongating like dark fingers reaching out from the depths of the forest. Lily's thoughts raced, each second stretching into eternity. The candlelight flickered as if it acknowledged the dark figures surrounding them, intensifying the fear swirling within her. Mark's voice broke through her spiral of thoughts, strained and desperate. "We need to find a way to hold them off, something to protect us." His eyes darted around, searching the forest for anything they could use. "What about the stones?" Sarah suggested, pointing to the circle they had just dashed through. "Maybe if we re-enter it, it'll create a barrier." Lily nodded, urgency propelling her feet. "Let us go." They began to retreat toward the stones, but the watchers moved in closer, fluid and silent. Their presence shrouded every whisper of hope. As the group stepped back into the circle, the air shimmered, and Lily felt a slight resistance, as if the boundary fought to uphold itself. The hissing grew louder, a sound that curdled her blood. It enveloped them, drowning out their breaths. Mark's arm brushed against hers, and she could feel his body trembling. "What if it's not enough?" Jake whimpered, tugging at Sarah's sleeve. His face was pale, eyes wide with terror. The flickering glow of the candle cast a grotesque smile on his features, and for a moment, Lily almost thought she could see the shadows licking at his feet. Mark glanced back at the encroaching figures. Just hold on. They'll have to break through the stones first. But even as he spoke, uncertainty crept into his voice, a crack in his bravado, the shadows transformed, swirling together, coalescing into a singular mass that loomed outside the protective barrier. Tendrils of darkness twisted as if searching for openings. Lily's throat tightened. She raised the lighter again, the flame a tiny beacon against the growing encirclement. Light the candle again. Sarah shouted. We can't lose it. With shaking hands, Lily reignited the flame. The candle flared brighter, illuminating the faces of the watchers. They snarled and hissed, their grotesque mouths opening wider, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. Then, something shifted, from the depths of the woods, a low rumble echoed, resonating through the ground beneath them. It made the stones tremble. A dark silhouette broke away from the gathering shadows, a larger figure that towered over the others. Its eyes glimmered, a deep crimson that seemed to absorb the candlelight. That's not normal, Mark whispered, backing away in disbelief. The colossal figure took a step forward, and the ground shuddered. A wave of anguish rolled through the group as the air chilled, causing their breath to frost before them. Lily felt the guilt wash over her. Had they unwittingly summoned this malevolent entity by lighting the candle? In their quest for safety, had they ignited a far greater terror? Ready? Lily said, barely above a whisper. We need to break the circle, we can't stay here. But what if we let them in? Sarah countered, panic igniting her voice. What if it gets worse? The choice hung heavy, pressing against them like the dark shadows surrounding their fragile barrier. Jake's voice trembled. I don't want to die. Mark squeezed Jake's shoulder tightly, eyes fixed on the towering figure as it advanced, lured by the flicker of the candle. We can run. Mark shouted suddenly. But Lily hesitated. What lay beyond the circle? Was it any better than what threatened to breach it? As the shrill hissing crescendoed into a cacophony of terror, the looming figure paused, bringing the group to a standstill. Its gaze seemed to pierce into their very souls, and they felt its hunger raw, insatiable. Now! Mark yelled again, making the first move toward the edge of the circle, but fear held Lily in place. Would their decision drive them into the claws of doom? As they took a collective breath, the moment stretched into an unbearable silence, and the oppressive darkness surged closer. What would they find when the line between safety and despair finally broke? Panic thrummed in the air, a living thing that clawed at their insides. The shadows outside the circle pulsed, each flicker of candlelight igniting their frantic emotions. Now! Mark shouted again, his voice desperate but unwavering. He stepped forward, pulling Jake with him, but Lily remained glued to the spot, caught between survival and surrender. As Mark breached the edge of the circle, darkness surged forward like a predator lunging for its prey. The oppressive energy of the looming figure fueled their fears. Lily felt the icy breath of dread on her neck, a chilling reminder of what lingered just beyond the fragile stones. Mark! Wait! Sarah's scream sliced through the chaos, raw and urgent, but it was too late. Mark and Jake stumbled into the swirling black, swallowed whole by the void that awaited them. Lily gasped, heart pounding against her ribs. We have to go back. She cried, but her legs felt leaden. The shadows behind her coiled tighter, drawing in closer, and she was terrified of the very ground she stood on. Look! Sarah pointed, her fingers shaking as she gestured to the candle. It flickered violently, as if struggling to stay alight against the suffocating darkness. We need to keep it burning. Lily's eyes darted back to the candle. The bright flame was their only protection against the abyss, and it quivered dangerously. She gripped the lighter tightly, but could barely breathe. Mark! Jake! She shouted into the void, her voice barely more than a whisper lost in the wind. There was no reply. Just silence, thick and insistent, and the hissing of the watchers grew louder, a sinister lullaby that echoed through the night. The towering figure stepped closer, looming over where Mark and Jake had disappeared. Its glowing red eyes narrowed, and for the first time, it let out a sound that was not mere hissing, but a low, vibrating hum that resonated deep into her bones. Lily. Sarah's voice jolted her. We have to make a choice. We can't just stay here. The shadows stirred, and the other watchers skirmished among themselves, moving closer, appearing more aggressive, emboldened by the absence of Mark and Jake. She could feel the malevolent energy, almost tasting it, metallic and bitter. Let us go. We can't let it take us too. Sarah urged, stepping back from the boundary but still keeping her gaze on the flickering candle. What if the darkness beyond held even worse dangers? Images flashed in her mind, endless trees, shifting shadows, her friends lost forever. Help us. She yelled, a plea that felt so small against the suffocating dark. Suddenly, another tremor shook the earth beneath them. Rocks shifted, and the candle flickered precariously. Just as Lily made her decision to break the circle, the colossal figure surged forward, its shape blurring with the shadows. Run! She screamed, wrenching her feet free from the paralyzing grasp of fear, and sprinting toward the woods where Mark and Jake had vanished. But the air crackled with tension, and she felt the watchers closing in around her, a darkness eager to reclaim what it had lost. The moment was chaotic. Each pulse of her heartbeat thundered in her ears as she crashed through foliage, branches scraping her skin as if the forest itself fought against her escape. Then, with a final burst of adrenaline, she dove through the opening where the shadows thickened. But what awaited her on the other side? The darkness seemed to swallow her whole, leaving her suspended in unknown terror. The candlelight flickered to an eerie glow behind her, illuminating a path that twisted into deeper shadows. And there, a whisper emerged from the shadows, soft but unmistakable. Help us! The chilling sound was both a call for aid and a warning. Was it Mark? Jake? Or something far more sinister? And just like that, the chilling cold settled into her bones, freezing the air in her lungs. With hesitant steps, she ventured further into the dark, where danger loomed and salvation was uncertain. What awaited in that heart of darkness? Could she trust the echoes of familiarity, or was she bound to discover something unimaginable? The trees loomed overhead, their twisted branches clawing at the night sky like desperate hands. Each step Lily took echoed in the hollow silence, her breath shallow, her mind racing. The whispers drifted around her, wrapping her in a cocoon of dread. She felt alive in a way she never wanted to be, her pulse hammering, her skin prickling, like every nerve had suddenly awakened. The last whisper faded into the darkness as she pressed deeper, searching for signs of Mark and Jake. Where are you? She muttered under her breath, desperation thick in her voice. Then, she saw it, a dim flicker, just ahead. Lily shot forward, hoping beyond hope. What if it was them? Her heart surged with mixed emotions: fear, hope, and the gut-wrenching twist of uncertainty. As she approached, shadows danced around the light, distorting it into something grotesque and unrecognizable. Mark! Jake! She called again. This time, her voice felt stronger, almost defiant against the enveloping terror. The light grew brighter, casting elongated shadows across the ground, revealing something on the ground that made her stop. A path of stones lay before her, wet and glistening as if painted in dark ink. Each stone pulsed rhythmically, alive with a sinister energy. The air thickened, and she could feel the whispers around her buzzing, slithering beneath her skin like restless spirits. Don't! A raspy voice cut through the cacophony. Lily spun around, but saw nothing amidst the night, only the ever-looming trees and shadows. Who is there? She barked, trying to mask her growing panic. The reply was a low growl, chilling and resonant, reverberating off the trees. You shouldn't have come here. It was a voice laden with malice, that could belong to nothing but a watcher. A flash of movement caught her eye, a dark figure darting amongst the trees. Was it Mark? Was it Jake? Terror gripped her heart with icy fingers as the figure stepped into the dim light. But it wasn't either of them. The creature was twisted, hunched over, with bone-white skin stretched tightly over protruding ribs. Its eyes burned with that same crimson glow, and its mouth curled into a toothy snarl. They're lost, it hissed, each breath coming out in a wheeze. And soon, you will be too. Lily stumbled back, breath hitching in her throat. No. I want to let you take me. She screamed, turning on her heel, trying to retreat. But thick tendrils of shadow emerged from the ground, wrapping around her ankles, pulling her down. With every ounce of strength, she fought against their suffocating grasp. I have to keep moving. She scrabbled to her feet, the ground slick beneath her as she dashed deeper into the woods. The flickering lights wavered and dimmed behind her, the whispers growing louder, almost mocking, as if they knew she couldn't escape. Help us, came the voice again, this time closer, echoing in her ears. Panic threatened to overwhelm her as she dashed through the thicket, forming a tunnel of tortured branches, but another sound erupted, a low growl, so close it made her stop dead in her tracks. Something was stalking her. The shadows shifted, and the air turned ice-cold. She felt it in her bones, an insatiable hunger from the presence in the dark. Please, she whispered to the night, pleading for deliverance, but the only response was the thudding of her heart. Blind terror surged within her, and she took off, the darkness gnawing at her heels, that terrible whisper twisting in her mind. You can't run, you can't hide. Was there truly an escape? Ahead, a faint glow caught her attention. Perhaps hope lingered there, maybe even Mark and Jake. Summoning her last reserves of courage, she pushed through the foliage, bursting into an open clearing. But what stood before her made her blood run cold. A grotesque altar lay in the center, inscribed with sigils, glistening in the pale moonlight. Bound to that altar were two figures huddled together, their faces obscured by shadows. She couldn't tell who they were, fear mugged her senses. Help us, they moaned, their voices a wet rattle that sent chills down her spine. With dread pooling in her stomach, Lily stepped forward. Would she face the darkness alone, or would she risk it all to save them? Just then, behind her, the watchers emerged, eyes glimmering like malevolent stars, hungry and ready. Would she make the ultimate sacrifice to save her friends, or would the darkness consume them all? Lily's breath quickened as the darkness pressed in around her. She forced her gaze upon the figures on the altar, squinting to make out their faces through the obscurity. Mark. Jake. The names escaped her lips like prayers, trembling with desperation. Help us, they rasped again, but it was different now, a sound laden with another world's agony. Their hands were bound, shackled by something dark and writhing, which only seemed to tighten with the watchers approaching menacingly behind her. Lily felt the ground shake beneath her. It wasn't from her panic, it was as if the forest itself was responding to the malevolent entities, a living thing enthralled to their dark energy. Don't you come any closer. She shouted, bracing herself. She had to protect what little hope remained. Help us. They repeated, but their eyes once filled with the warmth of friendship and laughter now glistened with fear and betrayal. Each second stretched into eternity. She couldn't tell if they were her friends anymore or if that grotesque altar had stolen their souls. Suddenly, the lead watcher, the one with blood-red eyes, stepped closer and extended a gnarled hand. She can save them, it hissed, but only through sacrifice. What do you want from me? Lily's voice edged on hysteria now, her heart racing as the shadows pulsed like a living thing. Join us, become one, either give your essence or witness their suffering forever. The growl curled around her, poisonous and enticing, as if it whispered sweet promises of oblivion. As if pulled by an unseen force, she felt her feet start to step forward. No. I want tea. With every ounce of will, she fought against the call. She tore her eyes between the altar and the gathering darkness lurking at her back. Time slowed, stretching into an agonizing infinity. Their faces twisted in pain, urging her to choice, and she knew the cost of hesitation. I love you. Jake's voice cut through, raw and hoarse. Please, don't let them take you. It snapped something in her, a fierce determination ignited from deep within. Get away from them. In a fit of rage and desperation, she lunged toward the altar. But the shadows coiled around her, constricting, tightening like iron vines, dragging her backward. "You can't escape your fate," the watchers taunted, closing in. The altar loomed in front of her, an unholy throne of agony. "No!" she screamed, clawing at the wood, the sigils burning her skin. "I'll save you." The chilling laughter of the watchers echoed as she felt herself slipping, caught in a thunderous storm of darkness. And then it hit her, a truth, stark and overwhelming: there was no saving them without saving herself. With the last flicker of her fading courage, she summoned all her strength, clasping her hands over the sigils, feeling their dark energy pulse beneath her palms. She screamed, begging the force to listen, to spare her friends. Suddenly, the ground trembled violently, shadows recoiling from the light now bursting forth from her, reshaping the altar. She could feel her life force surging, melding with the ancient power beneath her. The watchers shrieked, panic twisting their wicked faces. "No! What are you doing?" Her mind reeled. There was no turning back. In that moment, the altar shattered into a million fragments of darkness, swirling like a vortex. And for a brief instant, the agony of her friends was overshadowed by a blinding light. Hope mingled with fear, then everything went black. Was the light a beacon of salvation or a false promise? Lily awoke to silence, the oppressive weight of the night lifted, but the taste of dread remained. The clearing was empty, the altar gone. Had she saved them or only paved the way for something far worse? "Mark? Jake?" she called, but her voice echoed back as if the woods had swallowed it whole. Shadows danced on the periphery of her vision, but they were different now, flickering, waiting. What had she unleashed? And were her friends truly gone forever? A rustling behind her made her turn. Had something survived? The odds remained stacked against her, but one truth thrummed in her heart: a legacy of sacrifice might have paved a new, dark path for all. As night cloaked the clearing once again, she sensed the watchers gathering in the distance, their sinister eyes glimmering among the trees. What awaited her in this new and twisted reality, and what would her next choice cost? The morning light broke through the trees, casting slivers of gold onto the desolate clearing where darkness had reigned just hours before. Lily sat on the ground, heart still racing from the chaos of the night. Conflicting emotions swirled within her: fear, loss, but also a fragile spark of hope. With hesitant, trembling breaths, she pushed herself to her feet. "Mark! Jake!" she called, her voice shaking as it cut through the stillness. Each echo seemed to mock her desperation, bouncing back from the trees like a cruel taunt. She scanned the clearing, eyes wide, searching for any sign of them. But the shadows only danced. Lily forced herself to remember that moment: the flicker of light, the shattering of the altar. She had unleashed something, yes, but what had become of her family? Panic bubbled in her chest, the shadows encroaching on her felt alive, chilling her bones. Those accursed watchers still lingered, lurking, waiting, but there was no time for despair. She had to move. The woods had set its trap, but she could still fight back. A sudden thought surged: what if they need her? What if they are trapped? The urgency swelled within her, compelling her forward. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the underbrush. Each crunching leaf beneath her feet felt like a hammer on nails, loud, echoing her resolve. She hunched her shoulders and pressed on, visions of Mark and Jake fueling her determination. This wasn't over. She wouldn't stop until she found them. The trees loomed, their branches reaching out like wise old guardians, but now they felt menacing, whispering tales of the watchers and their dark desires. The path twisted unnaturally, but she forced herself deeper into the woods. She could feel it: the pulse of life, the awareness of the forest around her. It watched, every element alive with curiosity. Then she caught a glimpse: movement through the trees. Her heart leaped, and she rushed toward it, hoping against hope it was her family. But as she burst through the foliage, she stumbled upon a clearing filled with mist. It rolled around her legs, thick and ethereal, revealing a glimmering figure at its center. Eyes narrowing, she hesitated. Was it friend or foe? It was Mark. "Lily, you're here." His voice broke through the mist, fear mingled with relief. He stepped closer, dragging Jake behind him. The little boy looked pale, but unharmed. Relief flooded through Lily, but it was short-lived. Behind Mark, the shadows shifted, thickening ominously. "Where were you?" Lily gasped, taking them both in. "I thought I lost you." "We were lost in the night," Jake whispered, his voice trembling. "I heard whispers, Lily. They wanted to take us." The shadows crept closer, almost malicious in their approach, ready to engulf them once more. "We have to go," Mark urged, eyes darting frantically. But as they turned to escape, the lead watcher emerged, its form distorted and writhing with fury. "You cannot leave. You belong to the darkness now." Its voice dripped with malice, a chorus of the lost souls echoing in every syllable. "No!" Lily screamed, her voice trembling with defiance. She felt the flicker of power coursing through her, the remnants of the sacrifice she had made. "You will not take us." With renewed strength, she recalled the candle's warmth, the energy she had channeled. "You're not more powerful than love." The words erupted from her throat like a roaring flame. "I will not let you." She stepped forward, believing in her strength, in the love that had tethered them all, her family, her fight. Light pulsed from her fingertips, illuminating the mist, pushing back against the shadows. The watchers hissed, writhing in discomfort as the brightness enveloped the clearing. "Stay close," she ordered, feeling the bond with her family tighten. Mark and Jake pressed in beside her, their hands clasping tight, hearts beating in unison with her courage. Together, they stood united against the encroaching darkness. "We refuse to be taken." And with one collective resolve, they stepped forward, the light brightening, expanding as it consumed the shadows, unraveling their grip on the forest, on their destiny. The air thickened, swirling, as if responding to the surge of their combined strength. A final cry of anger erupted from the watcher, then silence. When the mist cleared, the ancient trees unseen fell away, the watchers vanishing back to the void from whence they came. The beauty of the forest blossomed anew, filled with sunlight and hope, a haunting memory replaced by the promise of new beginnings. "You did it, Lily," Mark said, voice a mix of disbelief and awe, looking around as if seeing the woods reborn. "But we did it," she replied, wrapping her arms around him and Jake, drawing them close. Together, they stepped into the renewed light, hearts filled with the warmth of freedom. They had each faced their fears, fought to reclaim what had almost been lost, and as they ventured back toward the path that would lead them home, they knew this was not just an adventure escaped, but a story they would carry with them always, a reminder of the darkness they had overcome and the strength of their bond. "Let us go home," Lily breathed, the weight of the night shedding from her shoulders like a fallen leaf. Together, they walked out of the woods, triumphant survivors forged in the flames of fear, united by love stronger than any shadow. As the sun began to set behind them, Lily turned back just once, gaze lingering on the thick trunks of the trees. A quiet promise formed on her lips: "I will never forget." The woods stood silent, a landscape transformed with all the stories say, and many still left untold. Now, don't wait even one more second. You need to subscribe now for more exclusive stories. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and support the channel. And flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this wild ending. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support.